Welcome, 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 welcome.
Welcome home, y'all. All right, we got some fans in the building. I heard a distant welcome home. We are thrilled to be in the ATL, shawty.
What up, A?
We got a couple of guests coming up that we're absolutely thrilled to have joining us today. Some of you all know him from some viral videos where he's preaching the word every single Sunday. Others of you may know him from the latest action around Target, the Target Fast. It is none other than Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryant in the building. Jamal, come on. And also joining us, oh, he got theme music. We didn't know where to go. We didn't get no picture.
Be the Moni in the middle.
And last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Lakeisha Hallmon from Village Market Atlanta. I know y'all have been that way. Hey. Dr. Key. Yes. Okay, so again, you all, we are the Native Land Pod, where we shoot with iHeart every single week. Our podcast drop on Thursday, and today we're having a really important conversation. We are at InvestFest, so we want to have a conversation about the black dollar turning over in our own community. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Bryant. We saw a really big development this week in the Target Fast. Can you talk to the people a little bit about what happened and where black folks should go from here?
Before he answers that, can we just do a quick survey? How many of y'all have stopped shopping at Target in the wake of their boycott? Very good. How many of y'all snuck off once or twice thinking ain't nobody gonna see you? We see you, all right.
Come on down to the altar.
Let me first say thank you to the community for making this happen. This is a significant moment for this generation. You have officially taken the torch from the civil rights era to this movement. It's the most effective economic boycott for black people in 70 years. Would you give yourselves a big hand for doing it? This week, it was announced that the president of Target was stepping down. It's not true. He's stepping aside. The COO is now the CEO, and he is now the chairman of the board. So Target is rewarding bad behavior. But I want to thank you in spite of all of that, because you have not gone to Target for the last 4 months. Target has lost $12 billion. Because of you, the stock has dropped from $145 a share to $93 a share. Because of you, I want you to know the CEO's salary has been slashed by 42%. But what we want to talk about today, if we could do all of that, directing money away from a big box corporation, what could we do if we put all of that energy and all of that economy into black businesses? And I'm believing that we're going to do it in this generation and in this year.
Well, we were talking backstage because a lot of black brands, Key, are in Target, and they're directly impacted by this. Our really good friend of the show, a Rattler, a FAMU grad, like our brother Andrew Gillum here. Yeah, exactly. Always representing FAMU. I hear some cheers for FAMU in the back.
Let's go Rattlers.
But Melissa Butler owns the Lip Bar, and she's impacted not only by these tariffs from the Trump administration, but also by the boycott. So she's getting it from both ends. What is the impact on black brands when we boycott stores like Target, and how can we continue to support them so they're not a casualty of what we see happening with Target?
So first, I'm so excited to be here. Can I say welcome home?
Yeah.
I've been wanting to say it, so welcome home, y'all. But one of the things that makes Melissa Lip Bar so special is that while she's in a massive retailer such as Target, she also has direct to consumer. So she has a way that you can directly buy from her. When we think about the impact of boycotts, it's more so the impact of the infrastructure that our businesses do not have. I think that we always have to position ourselves, while we may get in mass retail, Do we have our own enterprises just in case the tides change? And one thing that has helped Melissa is that. So what I want to empower all of you all to have, you can have aspirations to be in big retail, that's fine. But you should also have your own infrastructure that if something happens in corporate America that we're seeing now, that you can still self-sustain.
That's real. You know, so we were talking backstage how you balance with a boycott where we hold corporations responsible to be responsive to the people who are keeping them afloat. The black dollar, I don't even know if we should call it the black dollar. I mean, it's a green dollar bill, and we're not spending it the way we should within the black community in and of itself. Black folks, we are ingenious. We are creators. We are inventors. We are folks who own businesses even when we don't have storefronts to speak of. And unfortunately, the corporations that currently run the landscape in this country and the world don't always do right by us by respecting us and the way in which we spend our dollar. That's how it was so easy when Trump threatened corporations for them to walk away and say, look, we don't have an emphasis on black people anymore. They dropped it like it was a hot iron, right? And so I guess the question for me becomes, when we walk away from the corporation, at least whether it's for a period of time or we make that break permanently, my guess is, or at least my suspicion is that we are still taking our black/green dollar and spending it yet with another largely white, multinational corporation. How do we get into the hands of consumers, people like us, the information that we need to make smart decisions around, okay, if I'm not going to Target, I'm not going to continue to cause offense by just moving that dollar over to Walmart. I'm going to take that dollar and I'm going to put it toward a business that is black-owned or majority shareholder black-owned or 40% black-owned that gets us closer to recycling that dollar right back into our community.
Andrew, you speak of something that has always historically worked in our communities. For us, by us, we spend with us. So it's less about the respect of corporate America, but the respect that we have for ourselves. It's the respect that how we are intentional with how we spend our money. I think what we have to make sure that we're not chasing behind corporate America to make a shift. When the power lies in our ability that every time that we hit pay, we can direct where that spending is. So there's a notion of voting with your dollars. We can wield our power to spend with our own communities. That has always sustained us, and it will always sustain us.
I want to go to this point really quick. I want to do a little bit of a focus group in here. If you all own a business, can you raise your hands? Look at this room. Wow. So let me ask you all this. Do you only want the money to come to you when we're boycotting another entity? Say yes or no. Okay, you want the money to come to you regardless, right? So hopefully what we can do today, and y'all, we kind of pre-potted already, but we talked about this idea of what it means to not just operate for our good when we're punishing the white entity. It's also about how we build in this room with all you black brilliant business owners, how we support you, whether that's with investment, whether it's with buying a product or purchasing some type of a service, contracting with you for a service. That's the work of this panel now. This needs to be a strategy session almost where we can figure out how we best support y'all. I don't know if we have mics. If we have mics, it would be great to open that up. But
yeah, I think that is mindful that one of the largest real estate holders on the planet is the Catholic Church. The second globally is McDonald's. They're not selling hamburgers, they're flipping real estate. There are 26,000 black churches across the country, key that's registered. It's probably about 50,000, but it's 26,000 black churches that registered, they got paperwork. And most of those black churches are only open 2 to 3 days a week. One of the things that we piloted through this Target Fast is we turned mega churches into black malls. So during Juneteenth weekend and then Resurrection weekend, we took 100 vendors and took them into black churches in 5 different cities. I think that the black church has a role to play that is central, because what I keep touting, if the black church only talks about black economics during the offering, then it's a Ponzi scheme. But there's got to be an economic development strategy of how it is that we incubate these businesses so that they don't have to go to a share space, but they can go right to the fellowship hall. Black churches are in all of our communities, and if they're not talking about economic development, then they are a part of gentrification. Because they've got to reverse the cycle of what is taking place. And if the black preacher is only talking about tithing and not talking about investing and saving and entrepreneurship, then we're doing a disservice. I'll close by saying Desmond Tutu said, at the end of every year, the poor people in the community should vote to see whether the church is open the next year. If that vote happened, I wonder how many of our churches will be able to stay open. And so I think that we've got to bring the black denominations together in settings like this to say, how can we do a partnership? What my sister Key has been doing all over Georgia and all over the country. I think that the black church has got to take a page from it.
I'm struck by you talking about the black church at this moment right now, Reverend Bryant, because the twin spirit of economic development is really community development. Yes. And we are at a very dangerous time right now where we're seeing our civil rights being rolled back. And so while people are building, individual empires and brands, we want to invest in our safety and our community. And I will tell you all, I'm here from Washington, D.C., where there has been a federal takeover. Thank you. I see you, D.C. There's been a federal takeover of a black city. And I'm here.
That might have been a siren sound, Tiff, and not a whoop, like a holler. Like at this point, it's a siren.
Yeah. He's already declared that he is coming to Baltimore, Chicago, and Oakland. So this terror, this tyranny, this authoritarianism is coming soon to a city near you. So something that we've talked about on Native Land Pod, which, by the way, is the #1 downloaded podcast at our debut across all platforms on Apple. So if you don't subscribe, please subscribe, because we talk about this every week. One thing that I want to know that we've talked about is, what price are you willing to pay? Because you all have shut down, Target's, I'm sure their board of directors is not happy with what's going on. If we can do that to Target, how can we reclaim our power in this moment for a generation that we are only used to gaining rights? We are not used to losing rights, and that's what's happening. And I'm concerned that we're not paying enough attention. So I want to know, from an economic perspective, Key, how we can make an impact on our civil rights, how else we can hold the private sector accountable. And I want to know, from a black church perspective, what role does the black church play at this very dangerous moment we're in right now?
Tiffany, what you're talking about is coalition building. At this particular time that we're in, individualism would be catastrophic for us. It always has been. The collective, the community model, the village model is our way to solve the ills of this time and the times to come. But when we think about concentrated economics, it is what happens when we spend our money on our communities, and I think Angela just spoke on this. We can't decide to choose us when we're mad at white people. We can't choose to spend with us because we're protesting or boycotting or fasting. The choice of love has to be consistent. We have to choose each other because we love each other, not as a response out of anger. Now let me say this. If Target is what brought you to the movement, it can't be what keeps you in the movement.
Wow.
We have to have a sustained effort to patronize our businesses. Since over 150 years, the wealth gap for the black community has actually widened. In the time of enslavement, we owned 0.5% of the economic wealth in this country. 160 years later, we're at 1.5% in this country. So we know that this is economic warfare. So we have to choose to spend our money responsibly and diligently on our community.
I would say from the faith-based end is look at what happened. The Montgomery bus boycott was a year and a day. And every night for a year and a day, they went back to the church. What nobody talks about out of the Montgomery bus boycott is 3 mechanic shops were open. from those who used to work for the bus company and lost their job, but said, let's figure out a way that we can do it. Secondly, what nobody gives credit to is out of the Montgomery bus boycott was the first Ubers. They started their own ad hoc taxi services driving people around. And so I think in this moment, you can't fight well when you're angry. You have to fight when you're sober of mind. As we have to think about the fact, and Angela and I talked about it, this is the first time in the history of black people that while in a boycott, we push people to go to another white-owned store. We've never done that ever. So we high-fiving about Costco and not realizing that 70 years past Montgomery bus boycott, we have no nationally franchised business. So we've got to think about how do we franchise and scale, not just for individual wealth, but we also have to have a pregnant pause that brought us to Target, is that we spent $12 million a day in Target. And I can't find a black business where we spend that amount of money in commerce. So we've got to figure out how do we employ ourselves, how do we strengthen ourselves, and how do we incubate. The Patel family is an Indian family here in the country, and they own 47% of all motel lodges. They did it by doing cooperative economics within their families. They lived in the hotel, somebody else was the chef, somebody else was the maid, somebody else worked at the front desk. If you are lonely at the top, it's only because you took nobody with you. So try to figure out how do we build each other up and strengthen somebody else's business.
So I want to pick up a thread from where you left off, Bishop. There's something happening in our mentality that causes us to say white is right. There's a brand that we're continuing to chase when we choose to boycott this store and frankly make a dent on that one institution. But as a whole, white people are still getting the betters at the end of the day and are still not having to do service to us in exchange for that sacrifice that we're making. So I'd love for you all to address what you think it is that might be, and frankly for our audience, I want to applaud you because y'all are all choosing to be in the right place today. Y'all chose building black wealth and economic strategy for your Saturday conversation when a lot of others chose to do something a hell of a lot less constructive. So this isn't an attack on the people in this room. They've made the right step in the right direction. But by and large, as a community, I am sick and moreover terrified that with all of the oppression that we are experiencing that's happening in fast-paced, quick order. In fact, it's happening so fast, y'all, our heads are on a swivel. Every day it's another attack, and that's intentional. But when it comes to the economy, our economy, we've got to assess the fact that there is something mentally, emotionally, maybe it's part of the remnants of segregation, maybe part of the remnants of slavery, that are still causing us to choose white institutions, white products, white name brands, white local stores, and not making the conclusion that we can do money within ourselves. And I'm not talking about going to an exclusively segregated economic environment and system, even though that's what some might advocate. I'm talking about just with our everyday dollar, seeing that dollar recycle more frequently in our community before it exits. Where do you pin that on?
I'm going to push back, and then I'll yield to my sister, who's really more polished in the area than I am. This is the most entrepreneurial era for black people in our history on the planet. Is the largest number of entrepreneurs in this country are black women. And we're proving it to be so and necessary. Tiffany helped school me behind the stage. 300,000 have lost jobs since the rollback of have left the workforce. George Fraser taught me something very important, is that when we're going into entrepreneurship, don't pursue your passion, pursue your profit. And a lot of us have been trained to go after our passion in doing the business when your passion is your hobby. Your profit is your solution. And so this is the era where you're really going to have to do an autopsy of your community, what is needed and necessary. Does your community need another chicken wing stand? Right. Does somebody else in your community need to sell hair bundles? Or do you need to really figure out when this big, beautiful bill goes into effect, it will be the largest amount of black senior citizens who are going to be homeless. What are you doing in terms of senior care? Every day, 1 million people are turning 65. There are more 60-year-olds than there are 16-year-olds. What are you doing around senior services? When SNAP goes into effect next school year and there's no public free lunch for our kids, how in the world are you going to be able to pull your food truck up to that school and offer hot lunch to our children? You got to figure out, is there a profit in the solution? Whenever it is that you find that solution, you'll be able to do well, and you can do well by doing well.
2 points on this. There's 3.1 million black businesses who are single operators. So raise your hand right now if it's just you and your company. And it's cool that it is. It's 3.1 million. It's just you. And there's a little shy of 200,000 black businesses in this country who are employers. Those 200,000 black businesses employ about 1.4 million people. And it has about a $260 billion economic impact. So a solution, a tangible solution, is how do we grow that 200,000? How do we lessen that 3.1 million, meaning how do we help you scale? That is what I do for entrepreneurs every single day. I've been on this journey now for 10 years, striving to empower entrepreneurs to scale. Because if we do not scale, we would not have the economic power to elect our elected officials, to decide what opens in our community, to actually have an active voice with what is being built in our communities. So we have to grow that 200,000. But I want to address Andrew's question around psyche. Why don't we choose us? Well, I'm going to speak very plainly. White supremacy is working. When you look in the mirror and you have been trained to love everybody than the person that you're looking back at you, that something far different is better than you, the business is better than you, the brand is better than you, then you're going to subconsciously become the robot that they have programmed many of us to be. So we have to get free in our minds. We have to know that we are the algorithm that people are responding to. And so we have to psychologically get free and know that if the impulse is to go somewhere else other than our own, they are effectively controlling us. So we have to take our control back. And again, I'm going to keep saying it. The greatest way that we can wield our power is how we spend our dollars. But we have to address the mindset of how we see ourselves individually and how we operate collectively as a community.
You know, Carter G. Woodson, the writer, author many of us know, put it this way in The Miseducation of the Negro, that when you tell a black man to go to the back door and there is no back door, he will build one for its special purpose because his education makes it necessary. So your point around the power of white supremacy and its lasting legacy is that we don't even have to consciously think about it for it to dictate our actions. And I guess if there was an ask for the audience and for ourselves, is that we become a lot more conscious about why we are doing a thing that way. Simply asking ourselves, is this the thing that we ought to be doing? And I appreciate it, but I think it is going to require a wholesale solution. All of us pushing in this direction of it doesn't have a thing may be this way, but it doesn't have to be.
It's called collective consciousness. That's what we have to tap into as a community, the collective consciousness. In the way that we get deprogrammed, we have to make a choice that being controlled by something stops with me. If every single person here chooses that I would no longer be controlled, then collectively we will move different as a people. But we can't get the collective to move if the individual choice doesn't change. So we have to shift the way that we see ourselves, and we have to know that they have programmed us to choose everybody else, to be proud to wear everything else. So happy to live on the other side of town. So glad that your baby got into that school. And then when it's our own things, he was like, yeah, I went to a black business today. Clap for me. And where we should be proud of the businesses in our community and wear them boldly as we do these other brands who could care less about our legacy, about our future, and could care less if this wealth gap never changes.
I think I'd absolutely agree on the collective consciousness. It's necessary. But we also have to take a step beyond consciousness and thought leadership to action, especially in this moment. So I want to, just as a case study, because my brother Jamal brought this up, he talked about that big, terrible bill. And in every piece of legislation, there is always several business opportunities. Even when the legislation seeks to destroy something. It's seeking to destroy our reliance on a government that we know never properly served us anyway. But what we have to do in our collective consciousness is come together and figure out where the gaps are. I'm actually really excited today because one person who I know has been working on a gap, and it's when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one of the most basic things on the hierarchy of needs is water. Black people are still in this moment right now fighting for clean drinking water. And I met this young man on our State of the People tour. I'm going to embarrass him and make him stand up. King Bradford, stand up, King Bradford. He's working on clean drinking water in North Carolina, right? On alkaline water. And why am I doing this? This isn't just to shout out King Bradford. He's like, I'm going to get a social clip out of this. I love you. Sit down. But this is the point, y'all. There are other people in here who are working on bottled water. Y'all go find him so you can build capacity, so you can scale. For the folks in here who are taking care of our seniors, if you have a business where you take care of seniors, can you stand up? Nobody? Oh, we got somebody. Oh, we got a few. Look at y'all. If you know you need to scale, look around, see each other, and make sure that our seniors are good. How many of y'all have restaurants or food trucks? Anybody? They out working right now. But it's some of them. We need them to come together to make sure that our kids are eating school lunch. They can eat breakfast. We had a free breakfast program with the Black Panthers, right? We need to be turning around and doing all of that right now. That consciousness has to move to action.
Okay, to follow up on your brilliant point is, how many of us work for local government? Any folks work for local government, city, county, any of those? And you may know some are related because local government was often in the Black community a way in which we were able to move into the middle class by working government jobs. It is also the place where the government has turned to basically eliminate the Black middle class. That's how Black women have fallen so precipitously out of work, is because of the job firings of Donald Trump. But this was the point I wanted to make around local government. If you work for local government and you have a pension, there are guidelines around those pensions that are set by the elected officials for whom the government is run. They should be taking those dollars, and we should be advocating for our dollars, because they're yours, that those dollars, when they are invested a certain percentage back in Black businesses in the communities by which those dollars were created. Because right now, those dollars largely are being taken, and because we have an affordability crisis in housing in Atlanta and in so many other cities, that money is being spent with venture capitalists who are buying up apartment complexes in wholesale neighborhoods and then pricing.
Most of you, at least 80% of you, are entrepreneurs or emerging entrepreneurs. The $1 million question I want to ask is, how many of you have accounts at a Black bank? Yeah. Because we're asking Target to do it, but if our own business people are not doing it, then we're in hypocrisy. And the reason why Black banking is so important is, with all of the ideas, with all of the plans, with all of the studies, one of the things that we need desperately is access to capital. And if we don't have access to capital for entrepreneurship and home ownership, we're always going to be hat in hand. And so I want to challenge you. We now have at least 3 black banks that you can do online that are not necessarily in your community but are global or national, as it were, that we strengthen or at least do a portion of it in black banks. Secondly, and Key would have the data better than I, over 82% of black businesses are only one generation. They're only one generation because the children are not involved or they are not interested. You're going to have to bring up that next generation behind you and tutor and train and mentor them to take on that business so that they'll be able to flourish and we can have sustainability. Over and over and over again, you can't pass down a job, but you can pass down a business.
One thing that I want to pick on that Andrew just talked about was local procurement. As entrepreneurs, we are naturally leaders. And I do not want us to be afraid to engage in civics and politics. We can't sit this out. We can't be voiceless. We can't be afraid that if I say something that's going to hurt my business, if you don't say something, it's going to hurt your business. It already has. So in order to get these procurement dollars allocated to black businesses, then we have to hold our elected officials accountable. We have to make sure that city council members understand that this is a want that you have. So when they come knocking, and I hope everybody's engaged in 2 years, we have a critical election coming up. When they come knocking, they're asking for your vote. In the city of Atlanta, we have an election coming up this fall. When they ask you for your vote, I think you need to be very clear on the demands that you want for black businesses. And you ask them what their plan is and what is their follow-through. Because we will not get the change that we want from procurement or the allocation of dollars flowing back to black businesses unless we fight for it and advocate for it. We cannot expect that they're just going to do it. They expect us to be afraid to be politically engaged.
One of our good friends, y'all know Joy Reid, don't you? Who we should be supporting, by the way, on her new platform, her new venture, to let her previous bosses know that we love her, we support her, and we trusted her, which is why we're following her to this new platform. But Joy often says when we confront our community and young people and older people alike who say, I don't do politics, and her response is, well, politics is gonna do you. And that's a statement that really resonates with me, having been in local government and run for some of the higher offices in my state, is that they water the plants that are growing in their backyard. And then yours can die, or anything can happen to it because they don't have to aesthetically look at it. They don't have to appreciate it, they don't have to value it. And so for those of us who think that government isn't in service to us, that you elect people and they don't do anything for you, we have to reflect on that quote, that power sees nothing without a demand. And a demand means nothing unless you can hold me accountable for not following it. And the only way you do that is throwing me out of office or putting me in.
That's true, but we also, go ahead, Tiff. Go, do it.
Okay, I always bring this up. If y'all listen to the podcast, you know. But I would just say that accompanying this point about politics is where you get your information. And they traffic intentionally in misinformation and disinformation. So I would just beg the audience, share responsibly. Everybody on Instagram and everybody with a podcast mic does not a journalist make. Everybody's information is not equal. So please, if you can, monitor your news diet and where you're getting your information from. I think a part of the reason why we're in this situation right now is because people were being fed untruths. And there was a lack of curiosity because we were so addicted to our phones and the news media summarily ignored a lot of our issues. And this is why we have this landscape now with the media landscape that's capitulating to this administration. So that's my own personal plea. But I had a question for the panel and before this audience that's a little more philosophical. We're talking about entrepreneurship, and you touched on this so beautifully, Reverend Bryant, when you talked about chase your purpose and not your profit. And I'm just sitting here wondering, because so many people in entrepreneurship, a lot of people want to become, their goal is to, make millions. And I just wonder, the system of capitalism originated on the plantation. And if we're trying to build empires and not community, does this system of capitalism serve us? We may not be able to answer that on the panel, but I just want to throw that out to the audience to think about it as we're building businesses and hopefully building community. And if y'all had thoughts on it, I would love to hear it.
I'm going to get that to you, big brother.
Oh, thank you. That's a lot, Tiffany. You done lived up to your last name. But I think that we have to drive, and again, this is from a pastoral perspective, is drive to make impact. When our number one goal and aspiration is just to make money, I think that we lose our real raison d'etre. Why are we here on the earth? And I think that you have to figure out what is the legacy that you're going to leave behind and what will really be said of you. At the end of the day, ain't nobody going to remember the shoes you had on or the bag that you had. They really wanted to know, how did you make an impact? And America is really in a puberty state right now. In the words of my late grandmother, America's smelling itself. It smells like outside. And we really, somebody got to come up with deodorant. So we got to figure out, with all that is taking place in society and in the world, how do we really make this kind of impact? And let me go so far to say, is we have to start thinking diasporically. There's no way we will be in this room with 20,000 Jews in a room and we didn't discuss Israel. There's no way, as entrepreneurs, y'all can be here for 3 days and we don't talk about Haiti, we don't talk about the Sudan, we don't talk about Jamaica or Congo, we don't talk about Ghana now being on the red list. And so we got to think about, how do we do global business? How do we do diasporic business? And there's a large open palette for us that has been unexplored. China sees the value in Africa. Are y'all awake? Yeah, they see the value in Africa and India. So I think that we've got to look larger than our own borders and our own parameters. To hitch a wagon to what Ann said, is that we've got to figure out how do we monetize on where the issue is. America operates in cycles. And let me say to you, go to your own Chat GPT, Google search. Most of America's millionaires are built during economic crisis.
Exactly right.
And so because we are in the middle of a crisis, figure out how you're going to emerge financially and how we're going to emerge as a community.
I think it has to be communally. And yes, I think that is the part. Like, we keep trying to beat the white man at his own game.
Yes.
That ain't our game. It's not our game. They got trust funds. You know what? Let me do another poll. How many of y'all got trust funds?
I want to be your friend.
About 10 hands.
It's a whole lot of y'all. I want to be your friend.
Maybe, okay, y'all stand up, because Jamal said it's a whole lot of y'all. Stand up if you got a trust fund.
They all members of Pastor Bryant Church.
If they were, I wouldn't be on here.
Many. But my point is this, and I'm not shaming you for having a trust fund. That's a great thing. But there's not enough of us that come into money and can try and err on our parents' dime. And so what we have to do is build differently, build more strategically, build more intentionally. I'm telling y'all, we are in a crisis. Just because the crisis hasn't knocked on your front door yet doesn't mean that somebody in your family, somebody in your neighborhood, somebody at your church is not being impacted by these things. It is time for us. Y'all know all the stuff that we're telling you right now. You know all the stuff you've heard all day. You all are here by divine appointment. Do not leave without talking to your neighbor about not only how you can spin with their business, but how you can invest in that business and how y'all can scale together. That is what time it is.
And what I add to that, and Angela's 1,000% correct, you will miss the purpose of this divine assignment if you don't leave here with new relationships that you can strategically build with. And we have to be careful, because sometimes when we come to these conferences, we think the purpose is the picture with the person that we always wanted to meet. And so then we miss the person that's sitting left and right of us could be our strategic partner to help us scale and grow our communities. So I would tell you all about my own entrepreneur journey. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. In my goal of launching the Village Market, I wanted to free as many Black businesses as possible. Since starting 10 years ago, I've opened retail stores. One is at Village Retail, one is at Ponce City Market. We'll have one opening at the airport in March 2026. We have a location in California. All Black businesses are in my retail stores. But not shy of that, in less than 3 or 4 years, we've deployed over $1 million in grants and have given endless amount of technical assistance, mentorship, services to Black businesses across the country. So what I am sharing, that if you have a solution, I need you to build your solution. I did not come into this as an entrepreneur. I'm a former but forever educator. I was teaching, and then I worked for the Georgia Department of Education. But purpose and calling fell upon me, and I had to move and do something. So if there's anyone in here that feel compelled to move, Dr. Bryant talks about operating in your lane. I need you to have the confidence in this season to occupy your lane fully. We need people who are going to drive our community to solutions. So don't just open businesses just to say you have one. We don't have time for that. I want you to open businesses to economically disrupt and build and model our communities for the generations to come. But in order to do that, what Angela said, you cannot and should not do it alone. The lie of individualism was a lie of division. That if I get them to operate as an individual, then I would disenchant the collective consciousness of the village mindset. If I disrupt the collective consciousness of a village mindset, then I disrupt the unity, which is the compass and the epicenter of Black existence.
You know, I appreciate you calling out the big lie that is often said in America, which is we got there because we pulled ourselves individually up by the bootstraps. It's a lie. It's always been a lie. It's never been the truth. If that's the case, Donald Trump got a loan from his daddy and that's bootstraps. And failed in every business. So I guess what I would say is I think it's time out for just wanting to see a new Black business open up that replicates the same attitudes, traditions, and practices of white supremacy. Because that's death to our community. I would much prefer, Angela, you said that we won't win won't win this game playing the way.
We're not gonna win the white man's game.
So put another way, you'll never ever destroy Master's house using Master's tools.
Audrey Lord.
Because his house was not built to be destroyed. Which means we have to pilot some new tools, some new thinking, and do this thing differently. In the collective, you're not gonna hear a lot of communities talk about the collective when they're talking about building strong buildings, businesses, families. But it's been so essential back to the motherland of how it is we as a community have held each other and where prosperity comes from and comes through. And it's been through our collective. And don't let anybody lie to us to say that we can't get there together, that there's only room enough for only one of us in this room. Because there are too many generations, Pastor, where we believe that lie in the Black community, that there's room at the top, but the space is limited for the few of us that are here. Yet their community never limits their children and their children's children and their children's children's children from being at the boardroom table. So we have to dismiss that lie.
I just want to echo that really quickly because I think that's so important since there are so many business owners in the room, and Angela has pointed this out and called you all out. I truly have a testimony about that. When it comes to sharing information, sharing opportunity, we have a collective, a girlfriend group. We're all in media. We share. If somebody books Angela to speak somewhere, she's going to tell us how much they paying her, what she asked for. We share that information. We're not competitors. And the reason why, I will tell you, because I want everyone in my life around me to be doing something dope. And the reason why is because when I fall, they're going to be in a position to catch me. So it's never looking at somebody like why they get what I wanted or what they didn't do. And there came a time in my life when I did fall. And Angela caught me, Joy Reid caught me, Sunny Hostin on The View caught me, who else? Brittany Packnett Cunningham caught me, Latasha Brown right here in Atlanta with Black Voters Matter caught me. And so I just want to encourage you, share information, share opportunity, position everyone in your life around you to do something dope so they can catch you, but also that is that collective consciousness that we collectively build.
Which, really quick, I do want to make a distinction that I think is important, Tiff. The community that Tiff is talking about, we will talk about transactions as a part of being in community, and as a part of being in that collective consciousness, but we also really genuinely love each other. We actually really are connected. Too many of us have been trained, again, by the white man, to go into spaces, you're looking at somebody's name tag before you're even making eye contact. You're looking to see where they work and what they can do for you before you even ask them how their day is going. That is not how we are wired as a people. We love one another. When we normally go into our grandmother's house, the first thing our grandmother asks us is, baby, are you hungry? Those are the kinds of communities am I lying? No. Okay. These are the kind of communities that we build. We don't come up to people asking what we can extract from you. Again, that is a tool of the white man. I don't want us to move that way. Yeah.
Okay.
This relationship that you all just described, it only functions properly because you're not operating in the mindset of scarcity. This relationship that we're talking about and that they're talking about, and I can name some in my own life, the only reason why it's okay for Angela to see Tiff win is because Angela understands if Tiff wins, she won also. And that is a mindset shift with how we're going to be in community with each other. There's a notion that there is not enough for all of us. Another lie. There is abundance. That overflow will meet all of us if we assimilate and move ourselves in a position of that abundance. But it is highly contingent upon us divorcing the mindset of scarcity. You can't be afraid just because your friend got put on and you didn't, that was the last opportunity. It's only making room for 2, 3, 4 more. It depends on your mindset when you get there. So and when Andrew talked about the mindset, and I think Tiff talked about this as well, we cannot adopt or adapt any harmful practices that have harmed our community. So if you're that leader now, and this is just a level of love and accountability, self-assessment that we all have to do. If there's something inside of your spirit now that you're only thinking about your own survival, and even if you're thinking about hiring people but you don't want to pay them a livable wage, you want to hire people but you don't want to have mental health days so they can have something to give to your company when they come back, then we're adopting the practices that have disenfranchised our communities. So we have to be different operators, different leaders. But it's going to take a resurrection of a spirit of being communal to get there.
We gonna treat this like church since it's tomorrow, and I think you might gonna walk out of here with a few more members. So we have Jamal close, and then we got a little plug, but we appreciate you all. Go ahead.
No, I'm grateful. Real quick, would everybody just lift up that hand? I would just want to speak a blessing over your business. Come on, lift that hand up high. I pray that the Lord will bless you so you are never empty-handed. I pray that God will get everything in your hand that you need to build to the next level. I pray that your hand will always be open to receive instruction and correction. I pray that God will give strength to your hand so you can pull somebody up. And I pray that God will use your hand where you'll never have to close your fists because somebody else will fight for you. Amen.
But also, if you put that fist up because you're using some different tools, that's all right, too. All right, we appreciate y'all. This is Native Land Pod. Thanks again to Dr. Key Hallmon, Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryant, Andrew Gillum, Tiffany Cross. I'm Angela Rye. We're Native Land Pod. Welcome home. And subscribe, y'all. Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.